we will look at the concept of interfaces and
Ashish, can you please start the recording also as well?
it's recording. It started. So today we will be looking at the concept of interfaces. Okay. Uh, Interfaces will help you to launch the browsers dynamically. Okay. Like, let me show you the problem. Fine. How interfaces are used in Selenium. We look at it. Right. Suppose if I have to write a single script which will work on all the browsers, then how will I be doing that? Right. Hold on. Just a minute. Let me add the jar files of Selenium first in the project. Okay. So out here, if I make a new class known as dynamic browsers, what if I have to write a single script which works on all the browsers? Okay, I'll make a test ng test case. Okay, and add the test ng library. Right. If we go by yesterday's logic, then this is the way we launch the browsers. Right. Okay. If I copy this code, come over here, and if I have the browser as Chrome, then I want that whatever script I write should be working on Chrome browser. Okay, if I change this, just the browser name, if I change, then the script should work on that particular browser. Okay, the general logic says that fine, you can put some if else statements. Fine. What you can do is that you can write over here. Um, just a minute, guys, there's some background noise. You can write over here that if the browser is equal to Chrome, fine. In that case, you will want to you would want to launch the Chrome browser. Okay, so you can put an if statement like this, then else if the browser is, will this actually, just a minute, guys, there's some background noise. I need to fix it. Just hold on, I'm unsharing my screen. I'll share it back in some time. Yeah, so fine. So over here, similarly, for Firefox driver, you can have this piece of code for Chrome driver. You can have this piece of code. Okay, but will this actually work? Is this practical? Let us look at it. Right. Now, I'm writing a separate piece of code for every particular browser. Now, suppose I have to interact with the browser as well. I have to do a lot of things. Right. Then, uh, in that case, suppose after going to yahoo.com, if I have to print the title of the page, I'll write Chrome driver dot get title. This function get title prints the title of the page. Okay, if I have to click on a link, then I'll have to write the code to click on a link over here. Similarly, for Firefox as well, if I have after reaching Yahoo, if I have to get the title of the page, I'll have to write Firefox driver dot get title and click. Right. And Edge also I'll have to do the same thing. Edge driver dot get title. So this doesn't make sense. I'm writing fine. This will work as per the browser. If I run this, then it will launch the Chrome browser, take me to Yahoo and all, print the title. But this solution is not good because I'm writing a separate piece of code entirely for every browser. Okay, right. So the solution for this problem comes up from the concept of interfaces. Okay, now interfaces, let's look at Java. Okay, what interfaces are and how they are useful. All right, so there are two major advantages of interfaces, which I am going to discuss with you to solve this issue. Right, now interface is something which is like, you can say it gives you an idea about the system. Fine. For example, if you want to buy a book, just by looking at the cover face of the book, you understand what that book is about. So the cover face is like the interface which gives you an idea about the book. Fine. Or for example, this is a website. This is a web page. Just by looking at this web page, you can see that fine. It's something about Selenium WebDriver. So this web page is giving you idea about Selenium WebDriver. But how really things work internally, you really don't know. So similarly, you have got interfaces in Java. Okay, I'll create a new interface and um, let me call that interface as a bank. Okay, to create an interface, you have to go to new interface. All right. So, bank interface can have, a bank can have multiple functions, like it can have public void or clear check, public void, net banking. I'm just writing different features of a bank. In an interface, you have got functions, but you just define the functions. Okay, sorry, you just declare them, not define. You just declare the functions that fine. These are the three functions of a bank interface. But how these three functions will be implemented, that is not there in the interface. That is there in the implementing classes. For example, I'll create a new class known as HSBC Bank. Okay. And I will write over here that it implements the bank interface. If a class is implementing an interface, then it is mandatory for the class to implement all the functions of the bank interface. These are the three functions of the bank interface. Okay, if you have to implement this bank interface, you have to implement all the three functions of this bank interface. Okay, you move the mouse over this error and add the unimplemented methods. Okay, so all the three methods will be implemented. This @ override is an annotation. It basically means that this function is coming up from this interface. You can delete it as well. It is not mandatory to write this, but this is just like an information. This is just like a flag that fine. This clear check function is coming from the interface. Right. Now, if a class is implementing an interface, it has to implement all the functions. If I remove any one of them, I'll start getting an error. Okay, so please make sure this is the thing. And I will just write over here HSBC clearing check. And
Ashish, there can be a scenario where I don't want to use all the functions.
there are things, okay, I'll tell you. Okay,
Okay.
there are ways how you can avoid that abstract classes and all. Hold on, you will come to know. Okay. So right now, just understand one thing that it is mandatory that you have to implement all the three functions. Okay, right. Similarly, I can have another bank, say Citibank. The Citibank class can also go and implements the bank interface and right, it if it is implementing the bank interface, it has to implement all the three functions. Right, and I will write over here Citibank. Right. Now, what is the advantage of interface? You will come to know. So each bank class can implement the function in its own way. Okay, if I just create a new class known as test bank with the main function, I can create the object of HSBC Bank. If I just write HS and hit Control spacebar of the keyboard, you will get the names of all the classes which are starting with this. Okay, so HSBC bank equals to new HSBC Bank, and say I'll call it P1. And similarly, you can create object of Citibank. Each of these classes is implementing the bank interface. The function names in each of these classes are same, but the implementation is different, right? So you can write b1 dot clear check, b1 dot open account, b1 dot net banking. And similarly for Citibank, you can call the same functions b2 dot clear check, b2 dot net banking, b2 dot open account. So when you run this code, see it prints the function details of each class separately. Right. If I open a, hold on, on paint. Right. So what basically I did, I made an interface and I made two classes which implemented that interface, whatever were the functions. Okay, that is air check, open account, and net banking. Okay, all the three functions became part of both the implementing classes. Now, what is the use of interface? I could have decided that fine, don't make an interface. Okay, I could have decided to not make an interface, only make the classes with the functions. Okay, I could have made two classes and I could have given the same functions in them. The advantage is that, first of all, if more and more banks come, if hundreds of other banks they come, all of them will be implementing this interface and it will give a kind of discipline to the whole structure that whatever are the functions in the interface will be there in the other banks as well. Okay, right. The second advantage, um, the second advantage is that if if somebody looks at your code, if somebody joins your team and he looks at your code, just by looking at the interface alone, he will be able to understand that what this interface is doing and what the implementing classes are doing. So this becomes comprehending the code as well easy, comprehending the system also it makes easy. Okay, so that means that if you go towards Selenium side, if you go to the documentation of Selenium, then whatever is written in italics over here is an interface. Okay, for example, mouse. Mouse is an interface. Okay, and these are the normal functions of the mouse. Click, context click, double click, mouse down, mouse move, mouse up. And these are the implementing classes, but this is deprecated now. It is not used. Okay, but just giving you an example. Similarly, if you scroll down, you will see everybody has heard about the word WebDriver. Technically, WebDriver is an interface. Okay, it's the interface which has got the general functions which can control a browser, like closing the browser, finding an element in the browser, getting the title of the browser, navigate to some URL, quit the browser. Okay, so it's got functions, this interface, which are there on every browser. And the implementing classes are the driver classes which we have studied. So this WebDriver interface is equivalent to bank interface which we made. Okay, and in this interface, like we just had the method declarations. So out here also is in this interface, you just have in methods declared, and these are the implementing classes. Chrome driver, Edge driver, Firefox driver. Okay, so that means the names of the functions in these implementing classes will be same. This is the first advantage of interfaces. If all these driver classes are implementing the WebDriver interface, then the names of all the functions will be same. That is why when we made this code, we used Chrome driver, Firefox driver, and Edge driver. Get function is there in Chrome driver as well. Get function is there in Firefox driver as well, and get is there in Edge driver. The get function takes the browser to the website. Similarly, get title function is there in each and every driver. So each and every driver class will have a function which has the names will be the same, but still it doesn't solve the problem which I talked about. That is, how do I write a script which can dynamically open a browser? Okay, so the first advantage of the interface is that it launches the browser, or not launches, sorry, I'm sorry. It makes sure that you know all functions are same in implementing classes, but it is also not solving the problem. The problem will be solved by another second advantage, which I'm going to talk about right now. Okay, now listen to this carefully. At times people they get confused over here. All right. So over here, let me go to test bank. All right. Now, till now, we have been creating the object of the classes like this. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit different stuff. I'm going to write bank B3 equals to new HSBC bank. Now I am creating the reference of the interface and equating it to the class which is implementing the interface. How is this line different from this line? Okay, with B3 also, I will be able to implement all the functions the HSBC bank class. If I run this code, you will see that all the three functions will work. So I have taken the reference of the bank interface, equated it to the object of HSBC bank. Right now, how is this line different than this? Suppose if HSBC bank is offering additional functionality, additional function, which is uh, like international banking. Then, if this function is there only inside the HSBC bank, then that means that this function, of course, is not coming from the interface. It's a proprietary function of HSBC, which it provides apart from the general banking functions. Okay, so if I create the object like this or this, over here, if I write B1 dot international banking, you can access the function. But over here, you cannot access it. You will get an error. If you create an object like this, then you can only access the functions, only those functions which come from the interface. Okay, basically you can only access the interface functions to give the reference of the interface. You cannot access the proprietary functions. So what is the advantage of writing this line? The advantage is it gives you a dynamic handle. I can write like bank B4 equals to new HSBC bank, and I can call B4 dot say net banking. And after that, I can make B4 point towards object of Citibank. So this is the catch. Okay, B4 is the reference of the bank interface. It can point towards object of any one of the implementing classes. It can point towards object of HSBC Bank, or it can point towards object of Citibank. Okay, I can print b4.net banking out here as well. So the command is same. This will call the net banking function of HSBC Bank, and this will call the net banking function of Citibank. If anyone has any questions, you can let me know. Okay, it is similar to like if I declare int I equals to 100. The next line I can also write I equals to 500, right? I can change the value of I. Only thing is it is pointing to an integer over here. Okay, out here we have the interface reference, right? So when you run this, you see that.
Ashish, but like, why do we need to like call Citibank under HSBC? Like, uh,
You can do anything. You can use Citibank here and you can use HSBC here. It's your choice. I can write like this. That is, say bank B5 equals to null. That means it is not pointing anywhere. So it is
okay,
my decision. I want to point it towards object of HSBC Bank, or it's my decision. I want to make B5 point towards object of Citibank. It's completely your call.
no, I just wanted to know, like, what will be the benefit of calling it under this HSBC thing? Like, is there any motto? Like, if I
This
want,
one,
yeah,
this will basically invoke the function in HSBC Bank, right?
yeah. But
So
my question is, why do we want to call a function of Citibank under HSBC? Like, we want to import some functionality of Citibank under HSBC. That's what you are telling?
no, these are completely two different things. Okay, B5 is what I want to convey is not calling Citibank under HSBC or something. I want
Yeah.
to convey is that one reference can be pointed towards object of different classes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, B5 can point towards HSBC or B5 can also point towards Citibank.
Okay.
If you
And
take
the
the
we
bank interface.
okay. And the value will be override. That's what.
You can there will be a shift of the reference from HSBC to Citibank.
Okay.
For the time when this reference is pointing towards HSBC, whatever functions you call, okay, will be called for HSBC.
Mm-hmm.
When there is a shift of the reference, whatever functions you call will be called Citibank.
Okay.
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 So this is the thing,
Okay.
right? So if I
Ashish, this
the
is Rohit here.
reference was with,
So
yeah,
Ashish,
yeah,
yeah, it is like when we have to compare the different banks details at one shot, then we can use this, right?
I'll tell you how you can use this. Just five
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Anyone else with any questions?
Yes, Ashish, this is Rohit here. I think I was about to ask the same thing. How do we relate this in Selenium world? How do we use it in
Yeah.
practical?
Now we know that WebDriver is an interface and Chrome driver, Firefox driver classes are the implementing classes. Right. So till now in WebDriver, what we did, we created the objects like this. Chrome driver separately, Firefox driver separately, and Edge driver separately. Now we know that the WebDriver is an interface and all the three driver classes are implementing the interface. I can also create the object like this, that is WebDriver driver equals to new Chrome driver. This line is equivalent to this line. The interface reference equals to the class implementing the interface. Okay, but this line gives us the advantage that on the next, if I want, I can also make driver point towards new Firefox driver, or I can make the driver point towards new Chrome driver. One reference, I can point towards different driver classes.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe I can write say web driver dr equals to null. Based on my choice, I can make driver point towards Chrome driver, Firefox driver, Edge driver. I can move the reference from objects of one class to another classes. So this thing will help us to solve the problem of dynamic browsers, which I was discussing. Okay, so we will what we will do is we will declare the WebDriver interface. Okay, and import WebDriver. And we will point towards new Chrome driver or new Firefox driver or new Edge driver based on our choice, and we'll remove these lines from here. So if else statements over here will just be invoking the driver, right? So if the browser is Chrome and if I run this, I will see that a blank Chrome browser will open. You see that? If I change this to Mozilla, then you will see that a blank Firefox browser will open. You see?
Yeah.
Fine. And all the driver classes have the same functions. Okay, so the second advantage is dynamic interface reference can be generated, which can point towards any of the driver classes. So the first advantage is that all the functions are same in the implementing classes, the function names. Once driver is initialized, you can write driver dot get, you can call the function. Okay, if Chrome driver is initialized, it will call the function in Chrome driver. If Firefox driver is initialized, it will call the function in Firefox driver, and you can navigate to a particular website. So now, if I put the browser name Edge, it will launch Edge and take you to CNN. So this is the advantage of interfaces, right? You see, Edge launched and it reaches over here. Now,
So Ashish, here I have one doubt. So if you want to launch the driver like the website in Edge with that HTTP CNN, then the second line which you
hello.
driver equals to null. So that hello, you able to hear me?
Yeah, this line.
That line can be ignored, right?
No, you have to declare the driver, right? What is driver? It is the reference of the interface. If I write over here
Okay.
int I equals to 100, on next line I
Mhm.
am writing I equals to 200. I cannot ignore this I. What is I?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
So you declare this reference, launch it, and then use it. And you can do different things like whatever command now you fire will be fired on that particular browser because the driver dot commands will be same for all the browsers or all the drivers, right? So this is what interfaces they do. That is, they help us to launch browsers dynamically in Selenium. Although there are other advantages as well, I will talk about those advantages later on. But yes, these interfaces are really, really helpful. Okay, now,
Asis, just one doubt here.
yeah,
So we have this class inheritance as well, right? So how is it different from this interfaces?
when I will tell you inheritance, I'll tell you how that is different. Inheritance
Okay,
has like it's not it's somewhat on the same lines. I'll tell you. Okay.
sure.
Yeah. So this is the advantage. Now, before we move forward, there is one more thing in Java which you need to understand. Okay, before I go and interact with the web elements. Okay, if I have to click on a link or something, right? There is something known as exception handling, which you need to understand. Okay, what exceptions are and how they are tackled. Fine. So I'll just take a very, very simple example and show you in Java exception example. If I write over here A, B, and in between if I write int I equals to 100 divided by 5. If I run this, this is going to print A and B. However, if I write 100 divided by 0, you will get exception. And when you get exception, it will give you the line number as well. Exception example.java line number 8. You click on it, the line will be highlighted. So this is known as the exception stack trace. This stack trace tells you where the error has come up and what kind of error it is divided by 0 arithmetic exception. So if you get something like this, don't be afraid. Try to comprehend it, try to read it. It will give you the complete information for your help. Okay, for example, over here, if I don't give the protocol, if I just write cnn.com and if I run this code, you will see that. See, this is the exception which is thrown. Invalid argument exception. And this is the stack trace. It is telling you that there are some internal classes and then you have got dynamic browsers line number 23. If you click on it, then on this particular line, the exception is coming up. So you have to understand that how to comprehend this particular exception stack trace, find the file name. And sometimes if you don't really understand why this is happening, you copy the first line of the exception and paste it on Google. You will have lots of suggestions by people and especially from stackoverflow.com, and that can help you learn it. So like this guy, he has given this program and saying that he's getting an exception. The mistake he has done is that in driver.get he has given the protocol, but he has given a blank space over here. Okay, so
Mm.
most probably this is the error. Right. So you can also find about exception from the first line which describes the exception and search it on Google. All right, it is very important for you to understand how to search stuff on Google and get the resolutions. Okay, now comes, this is about exception. Now how you handle the exception. At times, you know, you can put your program in a try catch block. Okay, so if any exception comes in the program, the control comes in the catch block. Okay. And what do we do in the catch block? I'll tell you. When you run this, see, it is printing A and it never printed B because after A, the control went inside the catch block because of this line. If I would have written 100 divided by 4 and if I would have run it, it would have been perfectly fine. But I'm writing 100 divided by 5 or 100 divided by 0. So exception is coming, it is going inside the catch block. Maybe you can, report the exception over here. Also, the exception object is created. There is an internal class exception whose object reference you get over here. And you can print exception e dot get message. So this will give you the kind of exception it is. It is divided by 0 exception. Or if you want to print the stack trace, you can also write e dot print stack trace. So this line will go and print the complete stack trace as well. That exception came up on line number 8. But the good part is the program never terminates. If I don't use a try catch, the program will actually terminate in between on this particular line. But if I catch the exception, it moves forward. If I run this, it prints a exception and ended is also printed. Okay, so exception handling is just like recovery. Okay, you have a issue, you have a critical problem. Fine, don't terminate. You go to the catch block, you report the problem, and then you come out of the catch block and you continue the regular flow of your program. And meanwhile, in catch block, you can report the exception, you can print every detail of the exception as well. Okay, right. So this is how exception handling is done. As we continue with the class, okay, you will see more about exceptions, what kind of exceptions we have in Selenium, like element not found exception, element not visible exception, element not interactable exception, okay, invalid argument exception. There are different types of exceptions in Selenium which we have to encounter and we have to cater to. Okay, so over there you will understand it in a better way, but for time being, understand one thing, that in exception handling, you have a try catch block which basically saves your life, that your program never terminates in between. Okay, right. So I don't want to start off with the next part today, that is how to extract the objects and interact with the web elements. Right, I'll do it tomorrow with you. Okay, we'll stop here for today. All right. Anyone having any questions? Anything?